the suit. It's really people not understanding the politics. And again, you know, like when they came and picked me up today, Sister Sandra was making mention, you know, that she was listening to the radio show yesterday. She said, "Oh, it was good." And I said, "Oh, all right." I mean, I was just doing what I do. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? While appreciating what she's saying, but it's what I do. I wasn't impressed with me, let's put it that way.
Right.
If you understand what I'm saying. But what it also made me recognize with the calls that came in yesterday, some of the responses, even from people who are allegedly conscious, that consciousness comes in degrees.
Absolutely.
And and because understanding and comprehending the times, meaning that what we're really dealing with, we know that people, us as a people, have been geared for so many generations to identify ourselves by our beliefs, by what we think is religion, even the fact that they don't even know they don't have religion. It's even that. Whereas you'll quickly hear people talking about their religions. You'll quickly hear people loosely talking about God, talking about money. And 90% on a test, each one of them, 99% of the time, would fail and wouldn't think they were failing. And they're not that they're insincere. They really don't know they're in the soup. And there's a tendency for them to think, "Oh, wow, that's interesting." Still not recognizing they're in it.
Because there's a semblance of freedom in the soup. There's a semblance of not being as heated in your portion.
There's a semblance of blindness
That's
in
what I mean.
the soup.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Now, this is what I'm saying. And this is in even relationship, even how you teach and how you're instructing people, bringing them into an awakening. The awakening is bringing them to an awareness of what already is, whereas they think that when they become awake to what you present, that they've arrived, they was in it all the time. They were just easy food. It is not unlike ostriches that are being chased by a carnivorous beast, and rather than learn the paths of escape, they find a hole in the ground, stick their head in it, and then, you know, they start feeling the breeze and figuring everything passed and they ain't got no feathers on their butt. And one cheek left, right? And it's sort of where our people are. You know, just like, for instance, you can discuss things with our people and they'll start talking money seriously and they're not allowed to handle money. And they don't even know that they're not allowed to handle money. You understand? It's fine, good brother.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
All right. You understand? We're signing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And yet, when you discuss it, it could be interesting to them.
Right.
And they'll listen. But you understand? And then turn around, and when the representatives, putting things in context, right? When the representatives for the Jesuits send them an instrument in the mail telling them they got to pay income tax, they do it swiftly and easily, not even knowing they're paying the Jesuits. They think they're paying the children's school tax and tax from the government that they're not really even a part of. I mean, and so we're not talking essentially dumb people. We're talking about average people that are fairly intelligent, that are just going about their lives and think this stuff has nothing to do with them.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
And they've been living this myth all their lives. And they're suffering in their miseries. And the fact that they've been, you know, just like, for instance, I'll get more into it to after I get this stuff off of here. I'm talking big trash, right? Can't even erase.
You can't erase nothing.
Oh, you said why that stuff is still.
You can't erase nothing.
See, I got some new glasses. I know you got new. I just got these from Philly.
All right.
Really, people with style. Got these when remember we were at the
Yeah.
Locks conference,
Uh-huh.
the brother was selling them.
Uh-huh.
They just came finally today, yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday, was we there
Yeah,
on
that was
Saturday?
Saturday.
It was yeah, we were both
Yeah, the
there.
Saturday before.
Yeah, we were there, and it was a brother out there who was selling, he has he and his wife, she's an optometrist, I guess, and he's
Yeah.
optician, and it's called People with Style.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had one of a kind frames,
Mm-hmm.
and like he was able to, I sent him my prescription,
Uh-huh.
and I got
And they
these,
hooked you up.
yeah, I wanted the big loaf.
Wasn't that cool?
Yeah. And these probably would have cost me $500 or $600.
Yeah, easily.
$195 with Verilux. I got my vision goes all the way across instead of just in the middle.
Yeah.
So
So that's
yeah.
cool.
So
And
that's
then
right
they
in your hometown.
And
People
then
will
they
stop.
don't
Where is
reflect.
it located?
I'll give. He's on like Allegheny. I can give you his number.
All right. Really? Yeah.
You know, and the reason I said that,
We need to get something to get that off.
Yeah.
I had alcohol. I took my alcohol home. I had to rub with it.
yeah. Next time, yeah.
Let me
Bring a couple bottles.
okay.
Yeah, but start it anyway, so, because we want to share
I'm gonna
this
start the
and
tape.
have everybody benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You got the mic?
Yes. I'm gonna bring my mic in. Does yours have the plug-in for the corded mic for the cordless?
I mean, I could. I guess I could.
Because I have one, I'll bring mine, that way we can keep this with the audience, and
I
then
got another one for the audience.
then I can just,
I got
you know,
5
pin
of
it
them for
on
the
my
audience.
collar.
You just don't want to hold that.
Oh.
Yeah,
Because it
kind
of keeps
Oh,
it
shit.
in.
Word.
I thought I had lost my
Testing,
virgin.
testing.
Okay, ready?
Yeah,
I'm ready to take.
Salam, you all.
It's
Islam.
not.
Welcome to, where are we at, you all?
Real
unison.
awakening minds.
House of Reawakening Minds.
All right.
All right.
Hosted by who?
Dr. Naila. Not Dr.
All right.
Naila.
I think she's an undercover writer.
I'm the cover writer.
But anyway, let's talk a little bit about perceptions. Perceptions and assumptions, and the dangers of perceptions and assumptions absent of knowledge. All right? That's deliberate. Now, on our way down here, Sister Sandra had made a few comments, and what it did, it made me aware, cognitively aware,
This replaces the.
cover page, yes. Cognitively aware of
This replaces.
stuff that we do anyway. But what I recognize is there's an assumption that people have that what we're talking about is not spiritual. That's only because their concepts about what is spiritual is also incorrect. You know, and there's a connection. You know, just like, for instance, you can say talk from the Quran, the Bible, WASPI, the Pentateuch, Hexateuch, and start talking about the works of the Romans and their injuries that's caused against the children of Israel, you know, things like that. And people immediately start talking about that spiritual. Well, what we're talking about is the workings of Rome against the people of Israel who don't know who they are. We're just not using the same phrases because the phrases have been deceptive, if you understand. And so, by these people not being aware, they must know the distinction between who they actually are and who they so-called are. For instance, one of the interesting things, and that's interesting again because the sister I was talking with today, actually earlier this morning, the comments was along the line because she was raised as a Jew, and she's saying raised as a Jew. Now she was saying that with the conception from her mind that she's black. That's her perception. but raised as a Jew, and she was a nurse, she's retired, and she was, her main clients were so-called Jews, European Jews. Now, of course, I kind of understood her conversation was coming from an assumptive perspective, a well-entrenched and well-taught presumptive perspective. And logically, her conversation came from a sense of assurance that she knew what she was talking about. You know, from a scholarly position, I knew what she was intending to say, but I also knew that she was heavily flawed, if you understand. Number one, because there ain't no Jew, because there's no J and E Jew, if you understand. And then her concept also was a disconnect from the land here. Wondering why, because one of the statements that she made to me, because we talked for actually quite a while, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to repeat everything, but the nature of it was the European, and I'm qualifying that, the European woman who was one of her clients pulled her arm one day and asked her a question. She said, "Can I ask you a question?" This is that she relayed to me. "Can I ask you a question and that you wouldn't, hope you not offended," right? And she said, "Well, yes, you know." And the woman asked her, said, "What's wrong with you people?" You know, and she kind of was, her reflection was one of a little bit confusion, you know, like, why she asked me that? You know, my people, you know, then, and she paused, she didn't know how to answer it necessarily. And, but it made her curious. But because she brought it up, that actually sparked our conversation. And one of the first things I talked about is how she's making reference to her people from a third-party perspective, which is indicative of what the problem is, and also us not necessarily recognizing that there's a problem. Because also in the midst of a conversation, she was mentioning about what's wrong with our youth. You know, those typical statements. You hear some of the elders always make those kind of statements, you know, like the youth, like without saying it, they're acknowledging the bridge that's between us and the youth. And so I responded to her and said, we cannot talk from a third-party perspective, and as if they're starting from where they are and that they created this corruption that they're suffering from. That's an indicator that we have not laid anything sound and solid for them to build on. What we should be talking about is what's wrong with us that caused us to mess up our youth. That's how we need to look at this. You know, because everything that's in the garden is a reflection of the seed of his mother, or the generation that come before them. And what's wrong with them is what we have done and have not done in a combination. Now, I'll see you.
When you talk about putting some elbow grease in it. What is it?
Work that. Anyway, so on the way down, Sister Sandra started making some remarks about the radio station and some of the questions that came about, and that's got me to thinking. And so I asked her, I said, well, when we get to class, you ask them so we can share it with everyone else, you know. But on top of it, and because, you know, I'm always moving around, a lot of things I don't have time to do. Although when I get in, I'm usually on the computer or something like that. I still don't have the time to do what I need to do, because I have a lot of literature that's unpublished that needs editorial. And I do it when I can, and you know, before you know it, a month passed. Then you into the next year, even though you've done a lot of work. But in dealing with the people, I'm recognizing these missing keys. And this is why I'm saying what I'm saying to Dr. Naila. And it's back to the redundancy of certain concepts. And then when I gave you the cover page to, which is corrected to the reversioner, you know, I know that more needs to be with it, but it would have to be put in a book. You know, you have to expand. And so what I did, and so keep in mind, what had occurred is that Paul Savage, had given me the reversion or statement, that statement that you see at the top, and actually what you see, the second paragraph, where it says, for example, down the bottom where it says, for example, that's what he gave me. I built the rest of it.
Okay.
Having a comprehension of what it is, I built the rest of it. However, as I built the rest of it, logically, because I did it in actually 2 days, and then I had to make some corrections, and because he was doing it on the radio station, or make reference from it. And then I looked at it again, I made some more corrections, then certain questions come up, and then I just filled in, from conversing about it, and said, well, I may as well put it on the paper, which I was trying not to do, so it could turn from actually one page, a half a page, with the paragraph and the statement, to 13 pages, then to 18, then to 20, and then I had to go back and do some spells. And then I also recognized that's still not enough, because it's structured with the predication that the reader already has a knowledge of law and history. Do you understand? And even then talking about it some more and looking at the questions that it generates, I'm recognizing that perceptions, misleading perceptions. And so, like, if you just openly talk about Rome, what Rome did to Jesus, and what Rome's in relationship, like if you look at the Bible, Quran, I'm feeling good, brother. If you're looking at, say, the Bible, Quran, and particularly the Bible, the way people are taught the book, and you start talking about Rome and Rome's battle and the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the battle that Jesus had with them, people immediately start thinking that's spiritual. That's political. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And if you come with this information, they think this information is not spiritual. When this is telling the same story, except on a more realistic basis. Do you understand? And on a basis whereas it leads you to a consciousness of some remedy, much of which is predicated by your actions and your sincerity. But you're dealing with them same Romans, with the same exact problems, which is the foundation of the problems of the world. The interesting thing is that when you talk to many people, you recognize that they don't recognize that. They think you're on a different subject matter. You're on a whole different venue that ain't got nothing to do with Jesusness and them Romans. And it's the exact scenario, but for real. When they look at it in the book, they don't see themselves. This information is designed to give you a mirror, because we have a tendency to think that because we got new bodies that we're different people, and because it's a new time that we're far removed, when actually we are the seed of the prophecy that we read. And what has happened is that people don't recognize that, even when the evidence is clear as day. You can even give them scenarios, and they still don't see themselves. And the fact that they don't see themselves gives Rome power. Their power is predicated on our blindness or our lack of knowledge. They're depending on it. This is why it's necessary for certain political activities to take place with the 501c3 agreement with Skull and Bones, as an example. The tithing principle set up by Pope Sylvester II, and then charging it to Moses and Jesus, and then the people believe them. The lie that they told the people that Jesus was a Christian, while they know he was Yahudi, or what you would call Jew, which is not Jew, it's Yahudi. Where they paint him as a European, knowing that he was Moabite. And so our people have been under the illusion that they've been, quote unquote, spiritual. They have not been spiritual. They don't even know what spirituality is. And that's not a condemnation. It's just an explanation of truth. You know, and the interesting thing is, while the PhDs and those in the hierarchy of the priesthood across the board, so don't get caught up in, you know, Islam, Brahmanism, Judaism, Taoism, you know, Buddhism, that's the Brahmic.
Okay.
Although we're saying it's still the Brahmic priest. Yeah. So people's perceptions of what is really is not what the masses have been subjugated to. They've been given dogmata for generations, and they have called it religion. It's not a condemnation, it's the truth. It's difficult for them to accept that they've been played. And it's for everybody, you know, even those who find these things out. One of the most difficult things to do is for people to continue to ask for the truth, and then when the truth comes, they run.
Yeah.
Or they don't recognize it. Or they think it, you know, it's an interesting thing. They have the idea that they're religious and they're going to another religion type thing. When it's sort of like they've been given counterfeit fiat,
Don't wanna go back to gold.
and they still don't know that it's no different than monopoly. I mean, for real, we're not talking about imagine, we're not talking about opinion, we're talking about in fact. And they also don't know, as soon as they admit or say that they have money, it makes them taxable. Simply because they don't know law. Meanwhile, they're telling you about Allah and Prophet Muhammad and Jesus and God, and when God's going to kick the devil's butt on Thursday according to the Mayan calendar, sell your bicycle and all these kind of things, and the calculating of the calendars, and therefore we know the Lord when the Lord's going to, we don't even know ourselves. You know, and of course, people get sensitive when you're dealing with blunt truths because they still under the assumption that they're spiritual. When all the high priests know that spirituality is breath. Spirit is breath. Spirituality is the art or the training of breathing techniques to actually purge yourselves. Just like when you baptize, just like say when you baptize symbolically with water, or like when they do what they call ablution in Islam, where they wash their arms and their feet, you know, before they make salat, make prayer, etc. And they're in the impression that they got it going on. When the truth of it is, those are symbolics, not that they're wrong. The true baptism is the rebirth with a new mind. I mean, flushing out the corrupted thoughts that have been set upon the world by Rome, and going back to the ancient principles of your ancient mothers and fathers to purge the corrupted character. The corrupted character. And it is the corrupted character upon which the vampire actually feeds. So by our people not knowing themselves, this manifests as food for the bloodsuckers. Now, of course, the bloodsucker represents the energy. See, because blood represents the life force. And when you're talking about blood sucking politically, it means exploitation. And so, as an example, when Yeshua was disputing with the doctors of the law, even at the age of 12, putting it in layman's terms, they were doctoring up the law. Not that they didn't know the law, they were doctoring up the law, and he was straightening them out. And they was a little pissed because he was only 12 years old, straightening them out, and they're the high priest. You know, and so he was a threat politically. Do you understand? At the same time, he's speaking on behalf of fundamental principles as well on behalf of his people who have not yet even recognized him, if you get the point. And so it is no different, absolutely no different than people understanding the politics that we are living today on the planet Earth is a result of the law not being carried out then. And so the people don't see themselves. People don't even know that prophecy is a post-dated check of human experience. You know, just like if somebody write a check for you and you can't cash it, if it's post-dated, you can't cash it today. They're doing it to give time to put something in the account. prophecy is an account of the chronology for humanity. So when prophecies are made, they are not lived at the time they're written. They're projections into the future. The key is, they're there to prepare people for when it comes, they have been warned of the storm. Meaning that they recognize it by the signs and the symbols that were already predestined. The problem that we have today is that our people have lost the knowledge of themselves, so they don't know they are the Yahudi. Because the Romans told them, Jew. They don't even know the difference. You know, when Rome talked about that when the time comes, that he got this thing is so covered that they wouldn't know day from night. And when it talks about in the Bible, when it says